Hey, how's it going today, everybody? We're going to be talking about 6 fantastic games ruined by terrible endings. There's nothing worse than spending hours with a game, maybe even days, enjoying the story mode and the gameplay until you finally reach the end and come to the disappointing by a shoddy written up ending that doesn't make any sense. Plenty of great games have given us what they like to call second-hand regret. The story mode ends so badly or abruptly that you regret playing it, and you've probably already thought up several ways the developers could have handled it much better. Here are those best of those games. We still love them despite their terrible endings. First off with Assassin's Creed, if you can't already tell in the video here. The video is the last scene in Assassin's Creed where the boss, Aluminium, and the 9 Templars. But while the world may be tired of Ubisoft and its endless obsessions with Assassin's Creed series, when the games first debuted in the Revolutionary, every surface was escapable as the size of the world was enormous, with several different cities to travel between, areas between those cities to explore. While the linear nature of the Assassin's Creed missions led a lot of people to dislike the initial release, what they really made was the game's terrible ending that Ubisoft created. Much like Enslaved, it's obvious once you beat the game that Ubisoft's plan to continue the story. Ali Malum, I think I can't even pronounce the name, serves as a mentor throughout the game. He's the man who strikes you down from the rank of the assassins at the beginning of the game, making the player's platform all manner of assassins to prove your loyalty to the assassin cause. Except at the end, you find out Al-Mualim is actually a Templar and you have been his personal pawn throughout the whole game. I guess it could have really been worse, but that wasn't bad, even though they led us up to expecting something a lot more interesting than just the basic killing scenes we're used to. So that was number 6. Number 5 is Enslaved Odyssey to the West. Enslaved was a unique game that took an ancient Chinese fable and adapted it to be told to the Western audience. The game was set in a luscious post-apocalyptic New York City, where we met the game's main characters escaping the slave ship that crash lands. The platform and fighting elements of the game were satisfying, but the game ending fell flat on its face. You travel to the desert to learn the mysterious pyramid organization is responsible for the slave ships and the stealing people. But then you learn that it's plugging them into the Matrix-like configuration to attempt to better their lives. One of the characters destroys this because slavery is bad. The ending of the game puts a sour taste in most gamers' mouths because it felt as though the team expected to create another game within the settings to explain the big surprise at the end. The ending falls flat without any explanation because Enslaved did not sell enough copies, therefore to warrant a sequel. Although it's unfortunate because it seems like a pretty interesting game. I never played it myself, I heard about it a few times. But anyways, other than that, let's go on to number 4. Okay, so number 4 is of course Fable 2. Fable 2 is the game most known for players to ask questions for the developer. He was already known for the hype of Fable, which didn't live up to the expectations he set. Somehow we didn't learn our lessons with Fable 2. When the developer promptly hyped with the following statement. Obviously there's a lot that we wanted to do with Fable that had to be left out, but we're putting all that in Fable 2. That single statement led to the hype train ever so bigger than before for Fable, which means when the game was released and the hype train had to crash, it was a pretty big disaster. So what's wrong with Fable 2? The conclusion and how you play the game has absolutely no correlation. When you get to the end with the big bad, you're given 3 options. Revive everyone who has died, minus your dog, which the villains conveniently shot about 10 minutes before you're given the choice. Bring just your dog back and screw everyone else, or screw everyone else and just get rich. 3 options, all the same, no matter how you play. Hype train derailed, all aboard Peter's train of disappointment promises that were kept. Well, that's an unfortunate one, we all of course know that, and we will swiftly be moving on to the number 3 and leaving that one in the past. Borderlands. as you might expected that to be on this list, Borderlands 1. Noted game analysis Michael Patcher was harsh on Borderlands before it released. Starting the Gearbox Software was sending the FPS RPG hybrid out to die against the juggernaut titles like Dragon Age, Origins, and Call of Duty. Patcher was wrong, and the game went on to sell millions and warranted themselves a sequel. But the ending isn't what people loved about the game. In fact, nearly everyone who played the game hated it. So how does it end? Well, the game starts by telling you the part of your team of 4 vault hunters who end up on the Paradise seeking a lost alien vault that's said to hold untold treasures and wealth. Everyone you meet in the game goes on about talking about how great it will be when you find the vault and unlocking the treasure, while others are wholly skeptical of its existence. The final confrontation in the game is the vault itself. When you open it, a giant tentacle monster comes out and starts attacking you. After you finish it, it explodes into a loot piñata, and then credits roll. Gearbox eventually made a DLC to expand the story and make it worth playing the game. But that ending was the most anticlimactic ever. Most anticlimactic event ever. But that was number 3. We can all remember that game. Hardly though, it was way back in 2009. I can actually remember waiting for Borderlands 2. Got that for Xbox 360. But anyways, we're going to move on here to number 2. Number 2, Super Ghouls and Ghosts. The legendary fame of Ghosts and Goblins series extends to this game. But this is the game that taught my young mind just how cruel joke games can be. How does this one end? Well, you make Think to the end of the stage and defeat the giant demon with 2 faces. He shoots lasers and flames. The chick you rescue tells you that you needed to defeat him with weapons that was never available to you before she gives it to you at that very moment. Cut to black. The game reopens and you're sitting there on the start of the game, in the first graveyard with your newly acquired weapon. This is much more shoddier than the game's default dagger. Yep, you have to play the entire game again, making sure to defeat the final boss again with that shoddy pearl necklace of a weapon. It's an older game, so it's pretty basic. There's not really much to talk about. But even though that is an older game, it's still a really good game. Although for the ending, that's kind of sucks. But anyways, the first number 1 in our 6 fantastic games ruined by terrible endings will be coming up here in 1 second. So let me defeat this boss. And here we go. The final on this list, 6 fantastic games ruined by terrible endings, is, you might have guessed it, yes, Alan Wake. Alan Wake was a Remedy Entertainment attempt at creating an atmospheric horror story that seemed like it was ripped straight from the mind of Stephen King. The game centers around author Alan Wake while he's experiencing a sort of writer's block, and strange things start happening around the town. Silent Hill style, of course, Alan investigates. While the game was supposed to be spooky and atmospheric, the gameplay falls flatter than a convoluted story that somehow ends up in a terrible rendition of Hitchcock's The Birds. You confront the evil that's been haunting you and the whole game, and once it's solved, your character sits down to finish his book. That's pretty much the end of the story. He sits down, reads his book, and then it cuts the credits. But anyways, guys, I appreciate it for watching 6 fantastic games ruined by terrible endings. This is my first series, well, not series, but video like this, making 6 different videos and posting together. I plan to do a lot more like this. So guys, as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We will see you guys in the next video. As always, it's been Speed Test Gamers. See you guys soon.